G'day team and welcome back to the channel. My name's Tony, this is the Mighty Overlander, and once again I'm joined by Phil.
Mate, how are you?
Absolutely fantastic. And this is episode 2 of the Mighty Overlander service series, and where we'll be taking you through the major components of a service on a JB74 Suzuki Jimny, proudly brought to you by Tokyo Motorsport and the Modal Service Centre. Now, what's on the card?
Mate, we're going to do spark plugs this time around.
Old Sparky. Well, that's something that I know absolutely nothing about, which means it's my turn to jump behind the camera and leave it up to Phil.
Right, leave with you, mate.
Enjoy.
Thanks, bud. All right, guys, let's get cracking on with replacing these spark plugs. Now, the engine in the Jimny is a 4-cylinder, so we have 4 spark plugs, and it is a coil-on plug ignition system. So as you can see here, we've got the 4 coil packs, 1 for each cylinder. So we're going to remove those and pull the plugs out. Plugs realistically should be changed these days with the new Iridium and Platinum styles, anything from 80 to 90,000 kilometres, depending. We like to change them to make sure we get a clean burn in the cylinder, which improves fuel economy and also maintains the power that your engine produces. So let's pull them out and let's see what these look like. All right, guys, we'll start by getting these spark plugs out. I'm going to pop the harness off the coils. Now, they can be a bit tricky because they are rubber insulated, and you see the rubber insulated keeps all this dirt and debris out of the plugs. So just press down on the clip and pull them backwards. There is 2 little harness retainers here and one at the back. You just press them in together, and with any luck, there we go, that'll just pop through. The 4th one's quite small, there we go, and that should give you enough room, there we go, to access the coils. 10mm bolt. To loosen those and pull the coil. Careful not to lose the bolt there, and that's your coil pack. So we'll remove all 4 of those and then we'll get the spark plugs out. All right, guys, putting the spark plugs out now, you'll need a 5/8 spark plug socket and extension and a ratchet. And turn those out. Now, should be quite firm on the first initial break, and then wind them out. Don't be tempted to put a electric rattle gun on the end of your spark plug tool. I have seen people break them in place or catch threads, and then it's a bad time for everyone. So just turn them out by hand, especially if you've been full driving, there's any dirt or dust down the spark plug tubes. And there we have the first spark plug. So we'll get all of these 3 other ones out and we'll have a look. All right, guys, I've got the coils out of the car with the spark plugs. Now, they are in order from 1st cylinder through 4. It's always a good idea to keep them in order so that way the coils go back in the same place. Also good if you have any diagnostic issues, if you have coils or spark plugs carrying on, you know where they come from. All right, guys, we've got the plugs out of Tony's car. Looking pretty average, so there's quite a bit of dust and debris just on the top of the boot there from him being out on his adventures. The biggest thing and what we need to pay attention to is the tip of the spark plug here. Now, these are what they call a copper core spark plug, and it's got a worn down tip there, so it's well past its used by date now. So this won't be doing its job correctly in the engine, which means it's going to get poor combustion, which means poor power and poor fuel economy. Now we're going to put these bad boys, which are the brand new spark plugs into Tony's car. These are an Iridium option, and you can see slightly different tip, brand new, nice and clean. Put this bad boy in and we're going to get that good clean combustion from the engine, which means plenty of power and good fuel economy. All right, guys, I've got the spark plug inserted into the tool. I put a little bit of anti-seize on the thread. It's a very good idea, stops the plugs seizing up in the head. Also, the other thing I wanted to mention is this tiny little crush washer here that's on the spark plugs. Now, that is the sealing washer, so when the spark plug goes in, you need to make sure we torque them down correctly. So once you're ready, insert it in with the anti-seize, goes in nice and smooth. Turn it all the way down till it just bottoms out. Then with the ratchet, we turn it, give it a full turn in, and you'll feel it bite down. Little nip, that's it. That's all it requires. It doesn't need to be reefed in super, super tight. If it wants to give back my spark plug tool, the joys of mechanic life. There we go. So just make sure you don't reef down on them and over tighten them, because it will cause you grief in at a later stage. But also make sure you do tighten them in enough to crush that crush gasket. We'll get the last 3 in and then we'll get the coils back on. All right guys, I've cleaned up the coil packs. Not too bad, could be better, but I dare say they're going to get filthy again. Right, we're going to put the same coils back in the same cylinders, connect the clips, and then I just start the bolts with the wind of the finger. I will be putting them in with the gun. I've been doing it a while. If you haven't used those kind of tools properly and most frequently, I would suggest you just do them up with a ratchet so you don't go stripping the threads in the rocker cover, because they are just an insert into the plastic cover. So just be aware, and these will just go back in. And then obviously as part of it, make sure all the loom goes back in its same routing point. So you've got the clip in the back there, and that one, get that around the right way. There we go. It's always nice to make sure that it routes exactly the same way as it came out. There we go. Do up these couple of bolts. And there we have it. That is all back together. So take your time, don't drop the bolts too tight, and obviously fire the car up afterwards. Make sure you don't have any weird misfires or anything, but easy done, and we'll move on to the next part. All right guys, coils are back in, that's all back together and all sorted. So as I said, take your time. Things to note is obviously don't use any rattle guns or whatever, pulling the spark plugs out or putting them in, and also make sure that everything's clean and tidy when it all goes back together. And the clips, they're the main things. Make sure it all routes nicely and all the coils go back in their same spot, and there should be no issues.
Righto team, there you have it. Thanks very much for joining us on this episode of the Mighty Overlander Service Series. And look, thanks very much, Phil.
Mate, my pleasure. And if you need your JB74 serviced here in WA, pop down to see me, Phil the mechanic at Tokyo Motorsports, and we'll do our best.
That's absolutely legendary. Look, thanks very much, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like, share it with your mates, and we'll see you in the next episode.